This is Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Today is one of my favorite shows of the year because we get to celebrate two things I adore, summer and books. It's our summer reading show, and we have a panel of 3 guests this hour that will share their book recommendations from their lives as booksellers and librarians. Now, in the summer, I have this little pre-show ritual that I try to stick to. I try to spend a couple minutes outside the Vermont Public offices right before the show. There are a couple Adirondack chairs out there, and I sit and read a couple pages of my book. Ever since childhood, I have always had a couple of books going at once. Usually these days it's an audiobook plus a physical book from the library. And just yesterday, I finished 2 books, a beautiful memoir by Geraldine Brooks called Memorial Days about her husband Tony Horwitz's untimely death, and The Catcher in the Rye, which I read for my book club. We wanted to revisit a classic. But because I finished both those yesterday and have yet to start something new, today's show is perfectly timed for me, and I hope it is for you as well. And now that I have come clean as a true reading nerd, I hope you will too. Tell us about your favorite book that you've read recently, or your weird reading traditions like the ones I just shared. You can call in at 800-639-2211 or send us an email to vermontedition@vermontpublic.org. So let me introduce our panel. Here in the studio with me in Colchester is Elizabeth Blumley. She's the owner of Flying Pig Bookstore in Shelburne and a picture book author. Elizabeth, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for bringing a very large stack of physical books with you. That's fun to see. Got to represent. We also have Barbara Ebling, the owner of The Bookstore, as it's called, in Brandon. Barbara, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And Barbara, we're having a little trouble with your connection, so I might wait to go to you until we can clear that up. We also have Lindsay Belleville, who is a youth librarian with the Brooks Memorial Library in Brattleboro. Lindsay, welcome.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's talk generally first about summer reading, because it means different things to different people. Lindsay, do your reading habits change in the summer?
They do. I usually love Victorian mysteries with the fog and being bundled into carriages and the dark alleys. And definitely in the summer, I'm looking for something a little lighter.
Okay, so put the fog and the carriages away until the fall. Elizabeth, what about you? Do your reading habits change this time of year?
They do. Sometimes I want some escape reading that I don't read the rest of the year. And sometimes I'll also pick up a heavier book that winter is too heavy for me. I want the sunshine to kind of counterbalance some of the depth of a kind of a darker book.
All right, and we will get Barbara's thoughts in just a moment when we reconnect with her. Unless, Barbara, can you hear us now? Okay, all right, we'll take a minute on that. So let's hear a little bit about the history of your bookstore, Elizabeth. You're with Flying Pig in Shelburne. You founded this or co-founded the store a couple decades ago now at this point.
It's been more than 28 years.
Wow.
I was a youngster when we opened, full of dreams, and we had just moved to Charlotte from New York City, and our world shrank to a size of a pinhead compared to New York. And we loved the beauty of Vermont. We were planning to teach and to write. Both of us did both of those things in the city, but it was summertime, so we couldn't go into schools and apply for jobs, and we fell in love with this little building that was the old post office, and there was a for lease sign. It had been turned into a cafe, and we saw this for lease sign, and we thought, what can we make that into? At the time, Charlotte just had the old brick store, the new post office, the library hadn't even been built down there, and the fire station was there. So it wasn't as much of a community center as it currently is, and we loved this little building. We thought, okay, what can we do? And the only thing we had any business doing was a bookstore. I had worked in writing and publishing. I had worked for a writer-producer in Los Angeles. Books, kids, those were my whole life. Yeah. And Josie had been a high school English teacher. So anyhow, we opened in 10 weeks.
Wow.
We wanted to catch the Christmas season in a town of 3,500. That's the long way around.
No, it's a fascinating story and it's amazing that, after everything that the book industry has been through over the last couple of decades, that you all are going strong.
Well, it's funny because the challenges back then are very different from the challenges now.
Yeah, I bet. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I think we have Barbara back on the line with us. Barbara, who also started her own bookstore. Barbara, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. How about now?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Thanks for hopping on the phone for us. Barbara, could you tell us a little bit about the history of the bookstore in Brandon?
Sure thing. Well, my history of bookselling goes back quite a ways. I'd had a bookstore in Brandon many, many years ago, and then after we ended up closing our store, another store came into town. I started working for that bookstore, and it was going to close. And I said, well, Brandon can't lose a bookstore again. So I got a group of supporters together, and we opened up in a very quick fashion and on a shoestring in December of 2019, which, of course, was right before the pandemic hit. So it was a little bit of questionable timing, but we've managed.
How did you make it through the pandemic running a small business?
Well, we were fortunate that we had, as I said, we were on a shoestring. We had volunteers working at the store. Our landlord was very generous. We didn't have a lot of startup overhead, so we were able to get through the hard times just with what we had, being creative and using ideas that were shared by the bookselling industry to how to pivot during the pandemic. Things like online orders or phone orders with a hands-free pickup box on our front step and things like that.
That's amazing. And it's great to hear that you had volunteers coming in to help sell your books. We too rely on the power of our volunteers and their generosity, like our longtime call screener, Rick, who's behind the glass right now. So here to volunteers in our community. Lindsay, you have been at the library there in Brattleboro for more than 2 decades. What first brought you there?
I was living up in Burlington. I was working at Walden Books. My husband-to-be was working at Walden Books. We both ended up working at separate Walden Books, and he is originally from down here, from Guilford, and he decided, Burlington's getting to be too big a city. He wanted to move back here, and amazingly, the assistant position at the library was open, and it coincided perfectly with us moving down here, and that's how I started at the library.
Okay, so because you two have the most beautiful romance where you fell in love as booksellers at the same bookstore, let's start our recommendations off with some romance titles. Lindsay, since you work in the as a youth librarian, so children and young adult, and I bet there's lots of fun young adult novels that deal with first love and early romance. Are any of those on your list?
They are not. I'm more of a mystery person. I love mysteries. So that is definitely where my heart lies in the book world. But I do have some favorite historical kids books that I, bring out every summer and read because they just take me to that, warm place of a simpler time.
Yes. Yeah. Well, let's get to those in just a moment, but I want to see first if, now that I'm thinking romance, if any of our other panelists might have one on their list. Elizabeth, did any romance novels make it into that stack right there?
So I have some avid romance readers at the store, and if you go to the website and you look at Kate and Emily B's recommendations, they are filled with all kinds of great things. I know that Emily B. loves Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston, which I have not yet read. There's a new Emily Henry out. There are lots. I mean, romance is bursting at the moment. It's not my genre because it's so well covered by other staffers.
Yeah. I came late to the Emily Henry craze and then started reading her books last year, and I just loved them. They're so great. I haven't read her new one yet. Barbara, do you get folks coming into the store asking for romance?
Oh, yes. Oh, for sure. It is, as Elizabeth said, it's a huge genre and it's growing. It's not my genre, but I have coworkers who are experts and happy to recommend. I have customers who know sort of the sub-genres within the genre. So it's sort of amazing how diverse the genre is getting within itself. And I have a voracious reader of a daughter who gives me lots of recommendations as well.
That's good to have one of those in the family. Lindsay, you brought up books that take you back to a different time in history. What are some of those that are on your list?
One that I love is A Long Way from Chicago by Richard Peck. It features the gruff Grandma Dowdle, who insists she doesn't neighbor and she keeps herself to herself. She's featured in 3 books. A Long Way from Chicago is all based in the summer. Her grandchildren come visit her each summer, and every summer is funnier and more surprising than the one before. There's a country fair, and she enters her gooseberry pie and is the blue ribbon winner and wins a ride in the biplane, and which she cannot fit in. She's a very large, very gruff woman, but her grandson is just so enamored with that biplane, and of course he gets his wish. Ooh. So it's just such a comfy read. It's one I love to read every few years.
When you mentioned that title, Elizabeth got a big smile on her face.
I love that series. It's so funny, and I think it's the second book maybe where Grandma Dowdell has a shotgun with some things that go awry. She's a character.
Oh, yes, yeah. Right. And the audiobook by Ron McClarty, oh my gosh, his impression of Grandma is phenomenal.
I'm glad you brought up audiobooks. I always love an audiobook recommendation. Listeners, if you have listened to a great book recently, give us a call at 800-639-2211. You can also email us your book recommendations from any genre, 800-639-2211 or Vermont Edition at vermontpublic.org. All right, let's keep going with this historical genre, though. Barbara, do you have any historical novels or nonfiction on your list?
Well, let's see. I'm currently actually reading Robert Graves' Goodbye to All That, his memoir that includes a lot about World War I. It was not on my list of books I was going to talk about, but it's definitely one that I have been reading on the side.
Goodbye to All That, you said it's called, by Richard Graves?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Robert Graves.
Robert, excuse me. And Elizabeth?
Yes. Well, it's not a brand new book. I'm mostly talking about new books today, but Northwoods by Daniel Mason is just an unforgettable read. Everybody is wowed by it, and it covers 400 years in the history of this one plot of land in western Massachusetts, and it covers everybody who ever made a home there from several points of view with mysteries. It has a very dramatic history, and it is a phenomenal read.
Oh, wow. We got a couple recommendations from our listeners and followers on Instagram. JJ Ferreira Jr. recommends Moonflower Murders by Anthony Horowitz, Real History, The World According to the Movies by Alex von Tunzelman, and When Paris Sizzled by Mary McAuliffe. Call in with your recommendations at 800-639-2211. We will take those calls when we come back from a short break. This is Vermont Edition. Stay with us.
Thanks for listening to Vermont Edition, where support comes from Vital, Vermont information technology leaders. Did you know that 98.9% of Vermonters share health data with their providers through the nonprofit Vital to support better care? Learn more at vitl.net/sharing.
Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. If you're just joining us, it is our annual summer book show. We have a panel of 3 guests from around the region here to share their book recommendations. They are Lindsay Belleville, a youth librarian with the Brooks Memorial Library in Brattleboro, Elizabeth Blumley, the owner of Flying Pig Bookstore in Shelburne, and Barbara Ebling, the owner of The Bookstore in Brandon. They're here also to answer any questions you might have about what to read this summer. Maybe you need an idea for a gift or a book club pick. Give us a call at 800-639-2211. All right, as I know well here, hosting Vermont Edition, we are so lucky to live in a region with so many authors writing incredible books. Every single month, it seems like there's a stack that arrives on my desk. And I would love to hear from the three of you about some local authors that either have new books out or a book that you've revisited recently that you would recommend. Elizabeth, let's start with you. And I know you have a lot, so we can get to a couple of them.
I won't do them all. As you already, I'm sure, are aware, Spent by Alison Bechdel is amazing. She has every book feels like she was born to write this book. It's full of insight and little clever details. She pokes fun at herself. She pokes fun at culture. She has also deep wisdom and raises big questions about where we are in the world, how we live our lives. But she does it all with a wink. And anyone who followed her Dykes to Watch Out For cartoon strip back in the day, all of those character friends come back, and they've aged, but they're still activists. It's just a wonderful book, and it also pokes a little fun at Vermont.
Oh, yes.
But it's loving. It's loving fun.
Yes, it's definitely the love of someone who has spent a lot of time here. But yes, the scenes at the farmers market of all the people in their very Vermont outfits. I'm like, oh, I know all you guys. I recognize you.
It's really, exactly. The co-op scenes are, it's fantastic. If you've never read a graphic novel and you think they're not for you, this one would be one that might change your mind.
And what else are you holding there?
There's a beautiful new book by Helen Whybrow out called The Saltstones, Seasons of a Shepherd's Life. It is so beautifully written. She lives on a 200-acre farm in Vermont and raises sheep. Her writing is gorgeous, but not pretentious in any way. And it kind of put me in mind of Ellen Gatos's Pig Years. She's a Vermonter who wrote another farming book that's extraordinary, and James Rebank's Shepherd's Life. But if you are interested in kind of the rhythm of the land in Vermont, what's happening to our land, the way sheep connect us to our own humanity, there's a book she quotes from frequently that makes you want to read it immediately. It is beautiful.
Wow. And I should also note that we are going to write down all of these recommendations. We'll put them in a big list on our website, vermontpublic.org. You can also find that list in our show notes for the Vermont Edition podcast. Lindsay, let's go to you. What are some of the Vermont authors who are on your list this summer?
Definitely would be Brattleboro's own Anne Braden. She has come out with her fourth book, Into the Rapids. It is a middle grade book, wonderful book. It was actually inspired by the flooding that Vermont sustained. And down here, Marlborough, the town, was really essentially cut off. And that she sort of took that as inspiration for this book. And it features Addie, a girl who is getting ready to go to survival camp. This is where her parents met. This is her goal. This is her single focus in life, is to get to this survival camp and to do the best she possibly can. And it floods and the bridge is gone and no one can leave their town. And it's how she and her mother have to rely on the community that they've really held at arm's length since the death of her father, and how her and her mom are able to, pull on that self-reliance, but also, embrace this new community in this time of need.
Wow. Sounds incredibly powerful. Thank you for the recommendation. And Barbara, is there a local author or book you'd like to highlight now?
In keeping with the graphic novel genre, there's a graphic memoir by Harry Bliss called You Can Never Die that just came out this year, and it features beautifully illustrated pictures of his dog Penny, who is the focus of the You Can Never Die. It's a memory of her, how she intertwined in his life, but it's also his memoir. It incorporates many of his comics from the New Yorker or in the form of the New Yorker. And it's very raw. It's very personal. It's heart-wrenching. I was reading it, and we happen to have a dog named Penny, so it's connecting to me on a very real level that way. And it's our first dog, so she's very young. So I'm thinking, looking down the scope of years, thinking it's going to be heartbreaking, and it always is heartbreaking to lose a furry friend. And so he interweaves that loss with the memoir of his life, lots of realizations, lots of confessions, things he admits as he writes them that it's difficult to write about, or it's hard to even remember certain events in his life, both recent and distant past. But I've really been enjoying it.
It's a beautiful book. And if you'd like to hear Harry Bliss discuss this memoir, you could find our Vermont edition interview with him, as well as interviews with Alison Bechdel about her new book, Spent, and a number of other local authors, including Liquid by Mariam Rahmani, Life After Whale, which was illustrated by Jason Chin. Chris Bojalian spoke with us about his 25th book, The Jackal's Mistress, and my colleague Mitch Wertlieb spoke to Bailey Seabolt about her new novel, Coram House, on Vermont Edition recently as well. Let's go to the phones. We have Janice calling in from Putney, or Brattleboro, is it? Janice, where are you?
I'm in Putney.
All right. What is your book recommendation?
Yeah, I couldn't let this show go by without calling in and recommending This Is Happiness by Niall Williams. He's an Irish writer that's not well enough known in this country, but very much lauded in both England and Ireland and in other translations. He is an astonishing writer. It's hard to get through the book because you stop so often and just wonder how could he write that simple sentence with so much meaning. It takes place, it's a light book, it's great for the summer. It takes place in the fictional town of Fa in Westmeath in Ireland during the electrification, when they finally bring electricity to that area. And it's a town where it always rains until it doesn't. And it's that story set in that summer when it doesn't rain, and how the people change, and how it's a wonderful character story. There's a lovely relationship building between a young man and an older man. It's got some romance. But the writing is astonishing. I think Ann Patchett said it was a novel of language and of place. Oh, wow. Because you come away knowing that place that doesn't exist, but you know it. Highly recommend it. Everybody I know who's read it has just held it to their heart.
Oh, Janice, thank you so much for that recommendation. That book is called This Is Happiness. And again, we'll collect all of these book recommendations, put them on our website after today's show. You can call in with your favorite book you've read recently, or maybe you have a request for a very specific type of book. You can call it 800-639-2211. And speaking of specific requests, a listener named Anna wrote us asking for recommendations of novels that feel like memoirs. And a couple examples of books that Anna's really liked recently are Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver and Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. So to our panel, I'm wondering if there are any books on your list that feel particularly narrator-driven in the way that Anna is describing. Lindsay, I'm going to go to you first.
I really don't know.
It's a specific ask, so if
it's a very specific. Yeah, let me think about that.
Okay, Elizabeth, do you have any? I saw you nodding over there.
Yes, Gather is such a great book, and if you liked Demon Copperhead, it is kind of it was written for younger readers, for upper middle grade and high school readers, but it is beautiful for any age. It's been a Vermont Humanities Council's most popular ever all Vermont read. It's a fantastic book, and it does have that quality. If I can argue for a memoir that feels like a novel, there's a great book that I picked up. I didn't know her music, Nico Case. I wasn't really. I mean, I knew a little bit of it, but I wasn't a fan or a
Vermont
follower.
Queen.
Oh my gosh. And I loved her title, The Harder I Fight, The More I Love You. And there's a picture of her as a little kid on the front with this kind of demon shadow figure in the background. It is like, if you like The Glass Castle or A Girl Named Zippy or Bastard Out of Carolina, it's the kind of memoir about surviving and thriving after navigating a pretty difficult childhood. And it is is a page turner. It's wonderful, and it's wonderful on audio.
Oh, great. Okay, that one's been on my list. Barbara, thoughts?
Well, I echo Elizabeth on Gather. I was about ready to jump in because I'm in a book club that read Demon Copperhead, and we read Gather the same month because they're very similar. It's like one is written for adults and one is written for young adults. And Ken Caddo does such a beautiful job of capturing Vermont in its complexity, in the sort of push and pull of between people who've lived here for generations and people who've moved here recently, and how they have very different views often of the land and how it's used and how we interact with nature, animals, trees, you name it. And the narrator, this young boy or young man, really, it's just wonderful. The voice is so strong in that book. I love it, and every time someone comes in to the store, I try to put it in their hand. Mm-hmm. It's a total winner. He does an amazing job.
Barbara, the way that you described that book made me think of another prompt for Lindsay. Since you are so focused, Lindsay, on our younger readers, I'm wondering if you have any books on your list or other suggestions of a book that maybe a younger reader, a preteen or teen, might enjoy as well as their parents. Maybe something that a whole family could read together this summer, sort of like Gather.
One that I just read that I found extremely interesting was The Bletchley Riddle.
Ooh, good name.
By Ruta Sepetys and Stephen Schenken. So it is set in England. It's World War II, and it's a young brother and his sister Lizzie. Their mother is believed dead, and the grandmother is demanding that the granddaughter come back to America because their mother was American. And the brother is actually working on cracking the Enigma cipher. So it's got all this amazing history in it. It alternates between the brother narrating and the sister narrating. So the brother is talking about, like how they're going to crack this and how they're getting their ideas, and they're, sequestered away at Bletchley Park, the secret place where they're working on this. And the sister is taking it upon herself to try and find out, what happened to their mother. And the more she finds out, the more they realize they really didn't know their mother well.
Ooh, that sounds excellent. Thank you for the recommendation. We have Edward calling in from St. Albans. Edward, you're on the air. Go ahead.
How you doing?
Doing well. What's your book recommendation for us?
Well, it's kind of an older book. I read it when I was 20, and I'm now 65, so that was 45 years ago. But it's a kind of a fantasy wizard book. I don't know the name of the author, but the title is The Complete Enchanter. And the reason I recommend it is because you will laugh yourself crazy. You'll laugh out loud reading this book. It's wonderful, so violent. It's just a wonderful story. And it's the craziest thing you will ever... If you can picture everything you're reading in the book, it's crazy.
The Complete Enchanter, The Magical Misadventures of Harold Shea. Is that the book?
That might be it.
All right.
I'm not sure who the author is.
By L. Sprague de Camp. Great. A wonderful tale of magic and adventure, I see. Elizabeth, do you have more details on? Okay. All right. Elizabeth's doing some book sleuthing over there. Thank you for the recommendation, Edward, especially the fact that it has stuck with you through the decades is high praise, I think. Okay. So we got a recommendation from a listener, Susan in Mount Holly, who recommends the book Pony Confidential by Christina Lynch. Susan writes, it's nominally a mystery, but mostly it's a story of love and loyalty told with insight into both human and non-human characters and laugh out loud humor, just like the book Edward, our caller, just recommended. Susan says that Pony Confidential is a real treat and a great read. And I was just looking up this book and saw that the main character is a pony, so not a human, a horse, who is trying to save the only human he's ever loved. And this makes me think of an ongoing debate in my book club about whether we enjoy non-human narrators in our books. It is divisive. I'm not going to say which side I'm on, though I'm sure you'll be able to tell in just a second or two, but I have to get our panel's thoughts on this. Lindsay, how do you feel about animal narrators or main characters in books?
With kids' books, it's such,
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. And when they're well done, it's just great.
Mm-hmm. Elizabeth?
I agree. A great story is a great story. So if you can pull it off, it's great. If you can't pull it off, it's somehow worse than a story with a human main character that you can't pull off.
Barbara, where do you weigh in?
I have to agree. Yeah, I think things that are done well are, they're terrific. And it's true for anything, right? If you write in first person and you do it well, you have a wonderful book. And if you can't, then you can't. I have a customer who does not like books that are written in the present tense, which is something I had not even really paid much attention to. But once he said that, I started noticing it. I don't know why. Well, actually, I do know why. He's told me things, you can't be writing it and having it happen. If you're writing it, it already happened. And I thought, well, okay. But then I've come to read lots of books that I think sort of prove that theory wrong, his dislike of them wrong, because they're beautifully written. I have a. Can I recommend another young reader book?
Please.
Okay, I didn't want to leave out The Trouble with Heroes by Kate Messner, which is another just wonderful read. And you had asked about books that both kids and parents could read together, and this is, I think, that falls squarely in that category. It's for middle grade readers. Kate Messner is based, I think she lives over across the lake in the Adirondacks. And the premise is that this 7th grade boy named Finn has kicked over a gravestone in a graveyard because he's got various things he's upset about, justifiably. And his punishment, instead of having to pay for the gravestone, it turns out the gravestone was that of a woman who I believe was like the first woman to climb all of the high peaks in the Adirondacks, all 46 of them.
Wow.
Or maybe it's 47. And so his punishment is he has to, in order to pull his grades up and do reparations for his crime, he has to climb all of them in a summer with the dog of the woman who passed away, who she had wanted to climb them all again with her dog, and she passed away before she could. So he goes and climbs them, and it's written in verse form, which is a wonderful format for a lot of young adult and young and middle grade books these days. And it's there's so much you can do with it, so much creativity you can do with it. He has shaped poems. I think he has a list of different kinds of poems he has to do as part of his English assignment in this project. But he has haikus at the beginning, and it really captures that voice of a disgruntled youth who's got a lot of good reasons for being disgruntled, similar to the in Gather. But Kate Messner, she's an amazing author in our area, and she was actually at a book conference that I think Elizabeth and I both went to, and she was signing books, and she had a poster next to her with a picture of her on the summit of one of the Adirondacks. And I said, "Are you also a member of the 46er club?" Yes. And she said, yeah. So she's climbed them all herself.
Wow.
And I think that just lends another level of authenticity to it, and makes me admire her all the more.
Oh, what an accomplishment. Thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah,
And
that's on my list too.
it is, Elizabeth?
Yeah, it's all about restorative justice as well, which I love, and redemption, and how you kind of go forward after you've done something that you really end up regretting later. And there's another Vermont author, Dana Lawrence, who wrote a book called Wayward Creatures about, I think he is a 7th grade boy who is showing off for kids who make fun of him by setting off fireworks in kind of a Letty Park type of venue in Vermont, and ends up starting a forest fire that injures a lot of animals. That he finds a little injured creature that he tries to help, and in the meantime also goes through the restorative justice program here in Vermont.
Wow.
So both books are just beautiful stories.
Thank you for those recommendations. This is our summer book show here on Vermont Edition. We do need to pause for one more break, but before we do, I want to remind you that shows like this one, like I said, one of my favorite shows of the year, they're possible because of our listeners' contributions to Vermont Public. So whether we're talking books like we are today or interviewing a senator like I will be on Monday, it's happening because you fund our work. So your gift during our June membership drive ensures that no matter what, Vermont Public is here to stay for you and for your neighbors who might not be able to donate right now. So you can make a gift at vermontpublic.org or via the Vermont Public mobile app. And I just want to say thank you so much from all of us here on the Vermont Edition team. Okay, how about that break now? Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. This hour is our annual summer book show, and we have a panel of local book lovers here to recommend books to read this season. Elizabeth Blumley is the owner of Flying Pig Bookstore in Shelburne and a picture book author. Lindsay Belleville is a youth librarian with the Brooks Memorial Library in Brattleboro. And Barbara Ebling is the owner of The Bookstore in Brandon. But before we go back to our panel, let's get some more recommendations from callers. Trish is in Shelburne. Trish, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi. I just finished reading Rick Sheff's Joyfully Shattered, the 5th anniversary edition. The tagline is "The Physician's Awakening at the Crossroads of Science and Spirituality." It's a page-turner.
What did you love about it?
We have very similar journeys with very different stories. And Rick lives right here in Shelburne. I've not met him yet. I was introduced to him in the book on Front Porch Forum.
Oh, wow. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Trish, for the recommendation. We also have Michael in Bridgewater on the line. Michael, are you with us? Oh, we'll go back to Michael in just a second. Let's do another round of recommendations from our panel. Lindsay, what is another book on your list that we haven't gotten to yet?
So one that I read every summer, it's an adult mystery series, is the Death by Chocolate mystery series by Sarah Graves. It's set in Maine. My family and I go to Maine each year, so I love getting in that Maine mindset because in her books, you know, the town, the scenery, it's so much a part of the stories. So her 7th one, Death by Chocolate Raspberry Scone, just came out in paperback. The character, Jacobia Jake Tiptree, and her best friend, Ellie White, own the Chocolate Mousse Bakery. So through the whole book, there's delicious chocolate creations alongside with the mystery and shark attacks and missing fishermen and pirate treasure.
Lindsay, I'm already hungry. I had to check with my producers that they couldn't hear my stomach grumbling through the microphone, and you're not helping. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, these books, you really do want to eat everything that they're baking.
Elizabeth, what is another book on your list?
We get a lot of requests for thrillers, and there are so many good ones out right now. There's one by a Vermont author called A Mother Always Knows by Sarah Strohmeyer that's just out. Heartwood by Amity Gage was I could not put that book down. It was it's about a woman who's hiking the Appalachian Trail, and she doesn't show up for a food pickup she's supposed to make from her husband. She goes off the trail, and the book is told from multiple points of view, from Bev, the sturdy search rescue committee leader, to other characters who have encountered the woman on the trail, and pieces of her own journal. And it's a great mystery that unfolds in a sort of an atypical way for a thriller. So it's wonderful. It's for fans of God of the Woods by Liz Moore. That's one of the thrillers. And then for the people who like cults, there's a really great memoir called The True Happiness Company, How a Girl Like Me Falls for a Cult Like This by Veena Dinavahi. And it's also a compulsive read as a young teen who is suicidal from a town in which a lot of suicides happen. I probably should have trigger warning to that. But she gets help from an unlikely source that her parents in desperation turn to, this white 60-year-old man in Georgia, who she eventually comes to realize is really leading a cult.
Wow, what a unique story to tell. And Barbara, what's another book on your recommendation list for us?
Well, I want to plug two children's storybooks. One is called Here We Are, Notes for Living on Planet Earth by Oliver Jeffers. He is author and illustrator of this book. He is well known to many fans of storybooks as the illustrator of the Day the Crayons Quit and the sequels to those, The Day the Crayons Came Home, etc. But this one is about what it says, living on Earth, and it's got his beautiful illustrations. It starts with we live on Earth. There's water, there's land, there's air. It's complicated, and then it talks about being a person, that people are all different, that there's lots of different shapes and colors and sizes, and the same is true with animals. My coworker, who has 4 children, she puts this book in people's hands, opens it up to the spread with all of the animals around the world, and she says once they see this book, that spread, they get the book, because it draws people in. We can't really even keep it in stock. It goes out so much especially when she's there. So that's that one, Here We Are. And then also a book, What Feelings Do When No One's Looking, by Tina Ojevich and illustrated by Alexandra Zayas. And it is, again, great illustrations, necessary for a good storybook. And it starts with, curiosity always climbs as high as possible to the treetop, the roof, or the chimney. Joy bounces on a trampoline. And so the emotions are illustrated, feelings are illustrated, gratitude warms. It's so creative, it's so whimsical, and it covers the range. Shame digs little holes and burrows inside them like a mole. And it's similar to the Here We Are, because it ends with, where do all of these feelings live? In us. So again, it too is about being human.
Oh, those sound great. Thank you so much. We just got a recommendation in our inbox from Paul in Warren. He actually recommends 2 books. One is The Uncaged Sky by Kylie Moore Gilbert, a harrowing and inspiring account of her 805 days as a falsely accused political prisoner in a notorious Iranian prison. Now, he says he's partway through Somehow, Thoughts on Love by Anne Lamott, a touching and bittersweet collection of her reflections on overcoming addiction and facing life's many joys and sorrows. And with that, back to the phones we go with Michael in Bridgewater calling in. Michael, go ahead. Hi, Michael. Can you hear us? Michael, I think we're having trouble connecting with you, but I do see in the notes from our call screener that you were going to recommend a book called Yes, I Can, The Story of Sammy Davis Jr. Let's go to Kathy in Montpelier now. Kathy, go ahead.
Hi, thanks you for taking my call. I'm back to the question of callers looking for novels that read like memoirs. And I have just picked up The Vanishing Generation by Irene Musillo Mitchell, who is a Vermont author, just published, and it's the story of...
Oh, we just lost you. Oh, you said it's the story of, and then we couldn't hear you anymore, Kathy. Can you start again?
Sure. It's the story of an Italian immigrant family that came to the United States in 1931, and just beautifully written with incredible detail about life in East Bronx and the generation, the culture of the 1930s and 40s. So highly recommended.
Oh, great recommendation. Thank you so much, Kathy. And we also just got another email from Mary who recommends Red Dog Farm by Nathaniel Ian Miller. It's Nathaniel's second excellent novel, and he is also a local author who's been on Vermont Edition in the past couple months. You can find that link in our show notes as well. All right, I think we have time for maybe one or two more recommendations from each of our panelists. Lindsay, we'll go to you first.
So one thing that's on the top of my to-read pile this summer, it's a nonfiction book. It's called Gentle, Rest More, Stress Less, and Live the Life You Actually Want.
Ooh, I like it.
By Courtney Carver. It's her third book. Really about, her story is she had a high-powered career, lots of pressure, lots of debt, diagnosed with MS, and how she changed her life around and decided to focus on what was really important to her. So just great, reminder of, in this crazy world, sometimes you do have to just stop and look around and, reevaluate and take time for yourself.
Oh, a good message for all of us today. Elizabeth, how about you?
So 2 novels not to miss are My Friends by Frederick Bachman. He is a master of character and human connection and humor, gentle humor. He is wonderful. It's a great book. Skewers privilege, follows a teenage girl who's got some anger, some very well-deserved anger, and finds her way through with art, the power of art and friendship. And then The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong, who is one of the most extraordinary writers. This one isn't a light read, but it is so worth it. Every page is beautiful, and he doesn't spare us from all the pieces of what it means to be human. And then there's a nonfiction book I'm going to sneak in here.
Sneak it in there.
The Salmon Cannon and the Levitating Frog and Other Serious Discoveries of Silly Science by Carly Ann York. This is a fantastic book for fans of Mary Roach and Randall Munroe. It's one of the most fun nonfiction books I've read recently.
I think you and Lindsay are duking it out for recommending the book with the kookiest title in this hour. That's a good contender. And Barbara, one more recommendation from you?
Well, I haven't read it yet, but I had a customer come in yesterday and basically hand sell me a book, which is What I Ate in 1 Year by Stanley Tucci. Ooh. And she said it is hilarious. He is such a good storyteller. He lives an amazing life. My husband actually also recommended it to me via having watched his TV show. And so I can't wait to start reading it and possibly also listening to the audiobook, which he narrates.
That sounds great. Thank you for those recommendations. I wish we had time to get to more, but I know we will have lots more to share online on vermontpublic.org. We'll make a big list. I'm going to squeeze one last one in. One of my favorite books I've read this year is Shirley Jackson, A Rather Haunted Life by Ruth Franklin. It came out about a decade ago, and it's all about the author, Shirley Jackson, writer of horror short stories and novels, and she spent much of her life in Bennington, and I adored it. If you read it, send me an email. I'd love to talk about it. Okay, that is all the time that we have for today. Our guests were Elizabeth Blumley of Flying Pig Bookstore in Shelburne, Lindsay Belleville with Brooks Memorial Library in Brattleboro, and Barbara Ebling of the bookstore in Brandon. Today's show was directed by Aaliyah Papes. John Ahrens is our managing producer. Andrea Lorian and Daniela Fierro are our producers. Our call screener is Rick Barrett, and our theme music is by Myra Flynn. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch up again soon.